Justice Level, the chairperson of this committee, and I represent the Unamita constituents. We'll move to the left side, front, right, back, row, and then over to the right side. Thank you.
My name is Bedford Masia. I am the MP for Children's and the member of this committee. Jonas Yowera, MP Mrewa West constituency. Major General retired Swangmus Kumar, MP Cholocho North, a member of this committee.
Nyabantendai, MP for Shinga constituency.
Karumazondo Tichawan, MP for Maramba Pfungu, March East.
David Tekeshe, Makon Central.
Makonya Joyce, I represent Manicaland Province.
Elizabeth Masungu Martino, Kepu Dichuba, National Council of Palmome, Lawa to Ketam Kanini Proportional.
Brigadier General, retired Levi Maihlome, Mzimwani constituency.
Zalabani, National Central, Lester Nambo.
Bishop Tafanana, Jerembano constituency and a member of this committee. Thank you. Patrick, Wanda Center, Matsau.
John Harton, Caribbean constituency, West West.
Amos Chibaya, LT Mko.
Felix Chira.
Thank you, honorable members. May the Water Alliance, I don't know how many are you. Can you introduce me? It's okay, let's introduce you. Thank you. The Water Alliance, I think is a total of take off. May you kindly do that, stand up, stand up. And all those are will come up with you.
Thank you, Honorable. I had life in Zingwa to swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the whole truth. So help me God.
Thank you. And then Michael.
I, Timothy Chitambure, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth, nothing else but the truth. So help me God.
You're done. No one else is going to contribute.
Yes.
So, how many people came?
We did also invite members from our own structures to also just observe the process.
What do you mean on structures?
Our membership and other members of other CSOs, that is Resident Association.
Can you just repeat us who you are?
Thanks. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Honorable. Community Water Alliance is a civic organization that deals with issues of water, climate, and environment. And we are a membership organization that has got institutional membership. Majority of residents associations are affiliated to the alliance as institutional members, and we also do have individual membership. We do have committees at one level, nationally. Our footprint is not that strong in every ward, but we, in majority of urban settings and also in some rural areas, we have our members. I think in brief, that's all about the institution.
So I think you received the petition. So to us, what is brought you here on the Water Alliance? You gave us 3 petitions, right?
Yes.
3. You have them right here.
Yeah, we do have.
Okay. Which one? You tell me.
We start, Honorable, with the one on 13 September 2018.
13 September. Okay, may we proceed?
Thank you, Honorable. First, I want to applaud members of Parliament for kickstarting and also ensuring that Zimbabwe do have the constitution that recognizes the human right to water, which is now contained under Section 77A of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, as well as Section 46, subsection 1C, which obliges the state and every institutions of government to take into cognizance all international treaties and conventions to which Zimbabwe is a party. And I want to also just remind this committee that Zimbabwe is a signatory to the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. And General Comment 15 of that international instrument states that it is everyone's right to enjoy access to water, and that water has to be available. It has to be accessible, both physically and economically. It has to be acceptable in terms of its odor and taste, and it has to be sufficient in terms of its quantities, and the quality of that potable water has to be good. So I want to first of all applaud Parliament for having the Constitution in 2013 and ensuring that that Constitution do recognize the human right to water. Like I've said, there are provisions within the Constitution of Zimbabwe that is given everyone and every citizen the right to of access to potable water. Honorable members of Parliament, as contained in our petitions and the subsequent engagements that we had with a few of you, one of the submissions in the prayer was to review the law, particularly the Water Act that deals with issues of water service delivery. Like I've said, Section 77A and Section 46, subsection 1C, and Section 34 and Section 44, which gives obligations on the state to respect, the obligation to protect, the obligation to promote, and the obligation to fulfill the human right to water. And Section 68 on the right to administrative justice, which looks at the conduct of administrative bodies when it comes to issues of water service delivery. Also is of interest is Section 73 on environmental rights, which is got a linkage when it comes to water service delivery, particularly when we are looking at issues of wetlands preservation. Then Section 86, subsection 2, which looks at limitations of human rights, what factors need to be considered and taken into consideration when we are limiting human rights within our nation of Zimbabwe. So these sections, like I've said, they contain provisions on the human right to water, administrative justice, environmental rights, obligations of the state, and factors to be considered when limiting human rights. Our current water laws and regulations need to be reviewed to echo these constitutional provisions and ensure that there is policy consistency. In particular, there is need to review the Water Act, Chapter 2024, and Government Notice 164 of 1913, which has been used by a majority of local authorities to effect arbitrary water disconnections. We have produced, as Community Water Alliance, a legal policy and regulations analysis paper. We will share the paper with the committee, which basically analyze the legal framework on water and provide some sort of recommendations on what needs to be done to ensure that the provisions within the Constitution are echoed within the regulations of the nation that are being used by local authorities, as well as the Water Act that I've alluded to. Our analysis recommended that the following principles should guide a review of the Water Act, particularly Chapter 2024. First, the new water bill should explicitly state the legal content of the human right to water. In particular, it has to echo Section 77A, which accords every person the right to safe, clean, and potable water, and which state that the state must take reasonable legislative and other measures within the limits of resources that are available to achieve progressive realization of this right. So the water bill must explicitly spell out progressive realization as opposed to retrogressive measures. The bill must provide for availability, accessibility, and when we are looking at accessibility, we are looking at both physical accessibility and economic accessibility. It has to look at acceptability of the taste and odor of water, as well as the quality of that potable water. The Act must provide, the bill must provide for funding of potable water provision. I think Section 77A, like I've said, alludes to the fact that this right is subjected to availability of resources. So there is need to ensure that there is funding for potable water provision. And currently there are provisions for the water fund, which is contained in the ZINWA Act. We think that this progressive section has to be found in the new water bill. Section 46, subsection 1C, provides that when interpreting human rights, a court, forum, or board must take into consideration international law and all treaties and conventions to which Zimbabwe is a party. And like I've said, Zimbabwe is a signatory to the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. And General Comment 15 of this entitles everyone to sufficient, safe, acceptable, physically accessible, and affordable water for personal and domestic uses. So we expect as citizens that the bill must constitute sufficiency of water supply. It should specify what amount of water can be classified as sufficient for personal and domestic use. It must provide for safety of potable water. It must also provide for affordability of water to our citizens, and the minimum distance that need to be traveled by citizens and residents to access potable water. This is very important, honorable members of parliament and the chair, considering the challenges that our citizens are experiencing within local authorities on access to water. We also think that the bill must provide for respect, protection, and fulfillment of the human right to water, which is a provision that is contained on Section 44 of our Constitution. It has also to speak to issues of administrative justice, as stated on section 68 subsection 2 of our constitution, which states that every person whose right, freedom, interest or legitimate expectation has been adversely affected by any administrative conduct has the right to be given promptly and in writing the reasons for the conduct. This is very important, Chair, because citizens have had painful experiences of arbitrary water disconnections, which are effected by majority of our local authorities in Zimbabwe without any written notice pertaining to the reasons for that for those disconnections. And it has also to look at to echo section 86 subsection 2, like I've said, which looks at limitations of human rights. The provision states that the fundamental rights and freedoms that are set out in this chapter may be only limited in terms of a law of general application, and to the extent that the limitation is fair, reasonable, necessary, and justifiable in a democratic society, based on openness, justice, human dignity, equality and freedom, taking into account all other relevant factors, which include, number 1, nature of the right, number 2, purpose of limitation, number 3, nature and extent of limitation, number 4, relationship between limitation and its purpose, and whether there are no less restrictive measures that can be pursued to realize the same objective. And lastly, avoiding prejudicing rights and freedom of others. This provision, Honorable Chair, is very important because we have seen that what has been happening within local authorities, people have had their water meters removed because of perceptions that they are not paying for water service delivery. I think it's quite important that we also mention that we support payment for services. Where services have been rendered, citizens should pay for that service to ensure that issues of provision of potable water is sustainable financially. But we have also seen that the purpose of, for example, removing water meters at premises of residents is not in tandem with issues that I have alluded to in terms of section 86 subsection 2 of our constitution. And we have seen that there are also other less restrictive measures to ensure that local authorities get money from residents. For example, those that are owing them, they can issue summons to ensure that they also recover from their debt. But we have seen that this route has not been pursued. Instead, they arbitrarily disconnect water and in a way violate the obligation to respect that right. We think that the water bill must provide for legal procedures, grounds, limitations and processes for water disconnections. Like I've said, we've had painful challenges of arbitrary water disconnections within local authorities, riding on Government Notice 164, which was crafted in 1913. So we think that this is very important, and there have been cases of bribes where workers of local authorities say, for us not to disconnect water, you have to pay a $5 bribe. So we believe that these issues are very important and fundamental, Honorable Chair. We also think that the water bill must specify obligations on the human right to water and be specific on the establishment of a water fund. This is important, like I've said, that this right has been subjected to availability of resources. Honorable Chair, we believe that the water bill must also contain principles underlying promulgation of the human right to water. In particular, we are writing on section 56, subsection 3, which talks about equality and non-discrimination. In particular, this section states that every person has a right not to be treated in an unfairly discriminatory manner on such grounds as, among other things, gender, age, and economic status. So we think that, I think you are quite aware that women in our nation are confined to household chores, non-paying household chores of fetching water because of our patriarchal system. And like I've alluded to in the last sentence, we have had arbitrary water disconnections that are being effected because of non-payment for water services. So we think that this bill should specify and also ensure that women have some sort of freedom and are not confined, are not affected by the challenges of water provision that we have in our nation. And the bill must make a distinction between unwillingness to pay and inability to pay, because we have seen that there is always conflict between these two. We also believe that issues of access to information, particularly Section 62 subsection 1 and Section 62 subsection 2 of the Constitution, which states that people have got a right of access to information in so far as that information is required for purposes of enforcing public accountability and the exercise of the right. So the provisions on access to information, particularly on water issues, should be contained in the bill. And it has to also factor in issues of stakeholder participation. Like I've said, also we do have under Section 194, subsection 1E of the Constitution, which states that people's needs must be responded to within a reasonable time, and the public must be encouraged to participate in policy making. These are some of the good provisions that honorable members of parliament inserted in our constitution. The bill must talk to issues of transparency and accountability, particularly on water laws, which is a challenge that we do have in our nation. Honorable Chair, we also think that the bill must speak to the infrastructure in terms of its access to persons with disabilities. When we were coming here, Chair, we have had challenges of one of our members accessing this premise, who is a person with a disability, living with a disability. So we think that the bill on water should ensure that the infrastructure on water is accessible physically to persons with disabilities. So that's the first issues pertaining to the first petition.
What do you face? You said you faced one of the members with challenges accessing the building.
I think in terms of the wheelchair, in terms of access for some of the areas, we do have NASPA. Yeah, I think she's there.
Because the RAM.
Yeah, there was no RAM.
No, there are RAMs here, side and this side. Should have asked.
Okay.
Parliament has got RAMs.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Disabled, those who were members of parliament who were disabled, some are on wheelchairs.
All right.
Remember, we have members representing disability as well.
Thanks, Chair, for that. I didn't know that. Thanks for that information. The second issue, Honorable Chair, is on tenders on water chemicals, which was contained in our second petition. Honorable members of parliament, there are issues of water chemicals within local authorities. The issues revolve around tender processes and awards within these local authorities. This issue is very important, honorable members of parliament, because majority of the chemicals that we are acquired by local authorities require foreign currency, which is in short supply at the moment. And we've had several reports and articles, I think, in the press that have covered how scarcity of water chemicals have affected both the quality of water and the quantity of water. I will not dwell on all local authorities, but I will zero into the issue of Harare to just show how this issue is very important. In Harare, the city is currently using 9, 10 to 12 chemicals to treat our water. The city is built upstream, which means that all the pollution that happens finds its way to its water source. The city is built upstream of its water source, which is Lake Chivero, and this entails that majority of the pollution that happens within Harare finds its way to Lake Chivero. And then the city is required The city is then required to use a lot of chemicals to treat that water. So like I've said, I'll zero into the issue of Harare to just show you how important this issue is. The current suppliers of chemicals in the city of Harare require $3 million on a monthly basis to produce 400 megaliters per day. And the demand on a daily basis of water in Harare is 800 megaliters per day, which can shoot to as high as 1,200 megaliters per day during the hot season. And the city also, if it intends to produce 600 megaliters per day, it requires $4 million on a monthly basis. The huge costs, like I've said, come from the 10 chemicals that are required to treat water. Honorable members of parliament, the current water chemical regime in Harare is requiring these huge amounts on a monthly basis. But there's a company that offered a comparatively low cost. I will not mention the name of the company at the moment. It required 2.1 million on a monthly basis to produce 400 megaliters per day. That company requires $2.5 million per month to produce 600 megaliters per day. And in comparison, you can see that this company has got a lower cost. For 400 megaliters, local authority of City of Harare will save $900,000 on a monthly basis. And for 600 megaliters per day, if this company is engaged, it can the local authority can save 1.5 million per month. But the current water companies have been maintained, whilst this company can use a technology that make use of chlorine dioxide and another chemical, which are two chemicals, which offers a lower cost. Besides the issue of cost, the current suppliers of chemicals in Harare are not effectively dealing with algae, even at Modern Jeffrey. And we have had challenges of the quality of our potable water in the city. I have presented before you this document which shows evidence to what I'm talking about. If you go to page, Honorable Chair, page 7 and page 8, they do have evidence, scientific evidence of the tests that were done at Modern Jeffrey. The current chemicals that are being used by the city of Harare, which are the 10 chemicals, are failing to deal adequately with issues of quality. And the tests were done, particularly on Clarifier 10. And after the treatment using the 10 chemicals, still there are very serious issues of water quality. Water still has algae, and this algae, based on the research that were done by the University of Zimbabwe, cause actually colon cancer. These are some of the issues that we do have. But the chemical, which is chlorine dioxide that I'm talking about, can effectively deal with algae and ensure that citizens have got access to safe potable water as a right, as we've said, as stated in the Constitution. But we are saddened, honorable members of parliament, that the current water chemical regime is being maintained at the expense of quality and health of our citizens. And it is also very important and prudent that I mention that water tests at Modern Jeffrey are done on Clarifier 7. And we don't know whether that is deliberate or not. That clarifier has been malfunctional for some years. The new command that I'm talking about that did a test run in February 2019 was forced to make use of Clarifier 8, which is not the clarifier normally that is used when it comes to taste of water. So we don't know whether it is deliberate that clarifier 7 is not functional to maintain the current water chemical regime. Besides that, this company has demonstrated that they can use less cycles of sand filter backwashes. What happens at Morton Jeffrey, honorable members of parliament, is after treating water, part of the treated water at Morton Jeffrey is used to clean the system. And under the current water chemical regime, there is more treated water that is being used to clean what are called sand filter backwashes. But if it is the current, this command that I'm making reference to, which has not been contracted, if it is engaged, it can make use of less of that treated water. So we are appealing to honorable members of parliament to summon City of Harare officials and the Procurement Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe to explain before this committee the reasoning behind choice of the current water current companies that are supplying water treatment chemicals. We have also provided a sheet which contains local authorities that are making use of chlorine dioxide and dealing with issues of water quality effective. Our next petition, honorable members of parliament, relates to transparency and accountability in the administration of water loans. Section 300, subsection 3 of our constitution states that within 60 days after the government has concluded a loan agreement or a loan guarantee, the minister responsible for finance must cause its terms to be published in a gazette. Honorable members of parliament, we have not seen any gazette publishing water loans as citizens. I don't know, probably because we lost sight of the gazette, and also section 300 subsection 4 states that the minister responsible for finance must at least twice a year report to parliament on the performance of loans raised by the state and loans guaranteed by the state. I think you are quite aware that the loans that have been acquired relating to water provision in Harare, we do have the US 144 million China loan, and there are other loans on the Gwai Dam and other loans that are also expected with the construction of Kunzi Muda Msami Dam. Our concern, like I've said, honorable members of parliament, is that the minister responsible for finance must at least publish through a gazette loans that have been acquired relating to water service delivery. These issues are very important for purposes of accountability and transparency. We do have had challenges and a lot of concerns by residents on the administration of the China loan in Harare. The next, which is the fourth item, which is second from last, relates to budget allocations on water service delivery. I think, like I've alluded to in my earlier submission, the human right to water is subjected to availability of resources. And we expect that the resources have to come through a budget. The analysis that was done by UNICEF Zimbabwe has pointed that the Ministry of Finance allocated in 2018 0.4% of its budget to water service delivery in 2018. And you are quite aware that last year we've had outbreak of cholera nationwide. We've had cholera in Harare, in Ulawayo, in Gweru, in Mount Darwin, in Mberengwa, in Boera. So what it means is that the challenges that citizens are facing requires that the budget has to also speak to issues of water service delivery. But the allocations that are being done not only by the Ministry of Finance, but also even local authorities, are paltry allocations. And this curtails the process of ensuring that people enjoy the human right to water. So we are appealing to you, honorable members of parliament, that you push the Minister of Finance and local authorities to provide meaningful budget allocations to water and sanitation. This is very important when it comes to fulfillment of the human right to water. Our last strand or submission, honorable members of parliament, is on challenges that are being experienced by citizens on the ground on issues related to water service delivery. Thanks, Chair. The challenges, like I've said, they point to issues of gaps in our laws. We have talked about arbitrary water disconnections, removal of water meters, because local authorities say citizens owe them a lot of money. And the challenges are also on the issue that people dispute majority of the water bills that are issued by local authorities because of the archaic billing system within local authorities. I'll give you an example of the city of Harare. Currently, their BIQ system is down, but we are having bills that are being produced and served to residents as we speak. Water, we are going through a situation of water rationing. Majority of suburbs have gone for more than 2-3 months without water because of the water rationing regime that we have, not only in Harare. This has been the case in every local authority. But if you go to their composite bill, they are being charged on water consumption. That in itself speaks to the questioning on the amount that is being owed by residents to citizens. So I think it's important that those issues are also addressed so that people pay for what they actually owe. This has been a very serious challenge. And we have had cases where people don't, the local authorities don't collect refuse, right? And people are disconnected on the basis of other charges that are not related to water service delivery. Like I've said, we have had some areas in Mavuku where people have gone for more than 15 years without water. Currently, because of the current water rationing, we have had majority of our suburbs not having water for more than 3 months, but they are being billed. And when they disconnect water, the disconnection is based on the amounts that also relate to water consumption to bills that are generated when there is no consumption that is being done. So that's the first component. We've had also challenges of water rationing, like I've said, because of several issues. The first is that we have had changing climatic patterns and varying climatic patterns. And we have had bad rain season during the 2018 to 2019. And that this has affected the amount of water available for abstraction by local authorities before treatment and distribution to residents. So these are some of the challenges that citizens are facing. Based sewer pipes, people are resorting to unsafe water sources. I think the research that has been done by the environmental management agents, particularly here in Harare, is pointed that majority of our bores are contaminated because of pollution that we have alluded to. So we are calling that, we are demanding that the responsible authorities have to treat the issue of water and sanitation as a national disaster, because the challenges on water service delivery are experienced not only in Harare but nationwide. I think in brief, Honorable Chair, those are issues that we thought are important that we bring before your committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mic off, please. Thank you so much for your presentation. Honorable members, time for you to see the application. Any? you want Parliament to summon City of Harare and PRAS to appear before us to explain the reasons behind the choice of the current water treatment chemicals regime water.
Thank you, Chair. Like I've said, I was making a comparison of the current water treatment chemicals that are being used. They are 10 on a monthly basis. And they require US 4 million to produce 600 megaliters per day. This is a very huge cost to the local authority. But there's a technology that has been offered by another company. There was a test run that was done at Modern Jeffrey in February 2019. And that company is offering, with the same amount of water produced, they are charging US 2.5 million, which is 1.5 million less than the current regime in terms of water chemicals. So
what's your interest in that?
it's called.
No, I said your interest.
No, we don't have any interest in the company. Our interest is on the amount of money that is being injected. Because this.
Those figures.
Okay.
That, 4 billion is being used for these other companies, and this other company charges 2.5 million.
Okay.
You get the figures.
Okay. We presented before you a paper which has got the evidence that we're talking about. This one, it has got the evidence, and the US 4 million that I'm talking about is in the public domain. Even the local authority, if you summon the local authority, City of Harare, they can confirm what I'm talking about here. So this document contains that information that I'm talking about.
But on this document, I'm not seeing it within 4 million. Is there proof of payment for 4 million?
Okay.
Because we want to deal with street talk.
Okay.
Not something that's also evidence.
All right.
You have to say that there's evidence. What page it is that I didn't see the 4 million paid and the 2.5 million charge. You brought this petition, right?
Hello?
You had one who brought this petition, right?
Yes.
You crafted this petition, right?
Yes.
So provide evidence to that.
All right. You can go to page. If you go to page 17.
Page 17. I'm on page 17.
Okay. It talks to the issues of the 2.1 that I've been alluding to, being the cost for 400 megaliters per day.
There's evidence. On page 17, there's no evidence. These are statements.
Okay. This report, Chair, was produced after a test run at Modern Jeffrey, where the
Where are
local
the
authority.
results of the test run?
They are contained. If you
What page? You just
Okay.
wrote it now. I can just read it. No.
Okay. Go to page 7.
it shows the effectiveness of the chemical in terms of killing algae.
Are these certified results?
Yes.
Who tested them?
Okay. They were done at Modern Jeffrey, particularly on Clarifier 8, with the involvement, because this company was engaged by City of Harare to do the test run.
So why did you bring this company? Because you can't talk on behalf of a company that's not present.
Okay.
It's like if I'm asking you who's Nanotech? Who's Nanotech?
Okay.
That's the company.
It's a company.
Maybe you have no mandate to speak on their behalf, right?
All right.
So you should have known about the company so that we understand what's happening.
Okay.
But anyway, you also requested Parliament to set up a commission to investigate the tender awards for water treatment chemicals in City of Harare, right?
Yes.
Honourable members, they are also seeking that public procurement process and procedures effective in current discussions. And then they want Parliament to exercise its oversight function and require transparency and accountability in the water sector, right? And then you want Parliament, let's say, to exercise exercise its constitutional mandate to safeguard the right of Zimbabweans to safe, clean and potable water. That's what you want.
Yes.
Honorable members, I'm opening the floor to you for clarification. You're listening to the Honorable Chibaya, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Just want to seek clarification. Have you engaged the local authorities before coming to this parliament on the issues that you are raising? Thank you.
May you respond, please?
Thanks very much, Chair. We have engaged the local authority. We also submitted a petition. We wrote letters to the local authority on these issues, and even the PRAS, we wrote a letter to PRAS seeking an explanation on this particular issue. And we have had one meeting with the mayor of Harare on this issue pertaining to water treatment chemicals. And he agreed that the current water treatment chemicals are requiring a lot of money, and that this issue is burdening the local authority when it comes to issues of access to foreign currency, which is on many occasions scarce at the RBZ.
That's a follow-up question. When did you engage the city of Harare?
On this particular issue, we have engaged the city of Harare since last year. The last engagement that we have had with them was last month on this particular issue.
Was it formal or informal engagements?
It was formal.
You have any documentation to that effect?
Yes, we do have.
May you please submit the comment as well?
Okay.
Honorable Mama.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I also want to seek clarification from the Speaker in terms of the committee, because I understand this is Lands, Agriculture, Water, Climate and Rural Resettlement Committee, Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. And in terms of the local authorities in water supplied by local authorities, I want to get clarification why is the Water Alliance seeking this committee to intervene or to take action? Because maybe I'm a bit confused, Honorable Chair. So maybe if they can clarify why they're not approaching the local government committee and this particular committee. Thank you.
Honorable Mama, I think that's a bit out of order. Water Alliance doesn't make that decision. The they make the decision is the Speaker will make the decision. The Water Act falls under the Ministry of Lands. So it's in the right point.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. So actually then, sorry, Honorable Chair, then my question, if it's in the right order, then my question in terms of their presentation is that they've talked about the unwillingness and the unableness of residents to pay their bills. So I want to get the clarification from them. What is the distinguishing factor in terms of the unwillingness and then the residents who are unable to pay the water? Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Chair. We said there's a difference between a person who's not willing to pay and a person who's not able to pay. So we thought that because this context is very important and that discussion is important in our legal framework, because we've had cases of arbitrary water disconnections. Some are not paying, not because they don't want to pay, but because they are not able to pay because of their economic status. Like I've said, Honorable, I made reference to Section 56, where we say, I stated that this provision say we don't need to discriminate even on the basis of economic status. So the law on water should make a distinction between inability to pay and unwillingness to pay, so that we don't have these two groups in the same division, because some might not be able to pay because they don't have money. But there is also another strand of people who are not willing to pay. That's a different case. Our concern here is on those that are not able to pay. They want to pay, but because of their little income that is at their disposal, they cannot pay for some of these services. So that's the distinction that I was making reference to.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to know, can I know the relationship that exists between Water Alliance and the Harare Resident Trust? Are they representing, are they a separate entity, or they are part of Harare Resident Trust?
Thank you, Chair. These are two different institutions. Community Water Alliance is an institution that is registered through a deed of trust, and the Harare Residents Trust is another residents association that is also registered, and it has its own governance structures that are different from the governance structure of Community Water Alliance.
Follow-up question. So I would like to know if there are any engagement between Water Alliance and the Harare Residents Trust.
Yes, we do have engagement. We have also even invited them to also be part of, to attend this meeting. We engage them and we work with them. We work with the residents associations, Harare Residents Trust included.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. It's a follow-up question to how could Harare City Council make a distinction between those that are able to pay and those that are not able to pay?
I'll give you an example of what happens in South Africa. In South Africa, which is a model that I think they can, if it is feasible, they can cope. Those that have got low household income are given a minimum amount of water for consumption. If you exceed that amount, you are required to pay. For example, they might not, take the same model like what is in South Africa. In South Africa, they give a minimum threshold of 5,000.
I think you're missing the question. The question is how can City of Harare distinguish? How are they able right now to distinguish? Those who are able to pay and those who are able to pay.
All right, thanks, Chair. I think it has to relate to making use of the figures on household incomes or suburbs. I'll give you an example of those that are staying in Hopley. That suburb.
So you mean everyone stays in the whole place and able to pay?
Not everyone. Not
So
everyone.
how would City of Harare make a distinction?
Maybe my colleague might help me on this issue.
The idea that we're coming up with is, in terms of the economic status, what he was referring to is we have got a sector in our society. We've got child-reared families where there's no one who's gainfully employed there. You have got pensioners who we know their source of income is the pension, and the amount, as you can see, is known. And then when it's is then rated against the charge, you can then see that the income, the whole income of the family is below the charge that is being charged. So we are appealing, the Water Act should then make a distinction of the child-reared families or the sector that can be determined by the society or the social welfare that these cannot afford, basing on their income, the household income.
Thank you. Honorable Fula.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. May I have clarification on whether Water Alliance have also investigated other local authorities besides City of Harare? Thank you.
Response.
Yes, we've done the same with Blauwhite. We also have done the same with Mashingo. We have also done the same with Mtai.
Madam Chairman, would that information also, has it also been available to this committee, or it would be available what you did with the City of Harare? Thank you.
We only brought for this session, we brought the evidence from the City of Harare, but we can also avail for local authorities if the committee wishes to have that information.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My question to the presenter is, what actually prompted you to approach Parliament, considering that you are currently engaging the City Council? Is it that they failed, or you just thought this a superior, maybe this committee would do justice to your petition?
No, they are allowed by the Constitution. So let's the Constitution allows that.
All right. Why I was asking, because they are saying only last month they were with the City Council. My assumption could be maybe the City Council could be working something towards their petitions, and at the same time they are actually engaging us here.
We have been meeting the local authority for some time, and the issues that we have brought before you, Honorable Chair, one of the issues is review of the Water Act, which does not fall within the jurisdiction of City of Harare. Then the second issue is on oversight role of Parliament on the administration of water funds. So we think that it's important to ensure that Parliament plays its oversight role over local authorities. So the response time from the local authority on some cases has been very slow. That's hence the reason why we are here. We've been engaging them not since last year, but since 2016, we've been engaging the local authority, and we do have letters that have been written to the local authority on the issues that we are raising. And like I've said, the other issue is also to ensure that Parliament plays its oversight role over the administration of funds by local authorities. And the other issue is on, like I've said, PRAS, when it comes to tender processes. Whether we've written to City of Harare, they don't have even power to compel PRAS to ensure that on the selection process of tenders for water treatment chemicals, they also choose an institution that is cost effective and also deliver results on the quality of water for our residents. And above everything, like what Honorable Chair said, it's also our constitutional right to approach Parliament on matters that we think are quite important, which is a progressive provision that we have also placed in the Constitution, that we can petition Parliament and then appear before Parliament and air our issues. And we also brought these issues to you because we understand and appreciate that members of Parliament play a representative role, and we are citizens of this country, and our expectation is that that role Parliament has to continue doing it as it has been doing in the past.
Okay, thank you so much.
So are you alleging that there are elements of corruption within the municipality or the municipalities?
What we have presented, Honourable Member, is that we have got questions on the choice, right? For example, these issues related to, we cannot authoritatively state before the committee that there is corruption. But we are saying we have a situation where there is a company that has been engaged to do a test run. It's offering better service, producing better quality of water at a reasonably low price. But the contract is awarded to the other one. Whether that amounts to corruption or not, it's not within our jurisdiction to then state authoritatively to say that's corruption. But our concern, because that has got a bearing on the price of water. The cost of purification has got a bearing on the cost or the price of water at the tap. So if I think I forgot to state that water used to be 25 cents per cubic meter. It rose to 45 cents in 2017. Now it is at 83 cents per cubic meter. This entails that they are looking at the cost of purifying water and also charging based on the cost. So our concern is on those two aspects. We cannot authoritatively state that there's been corruption. That's why we're saying it is the mandate. It might be the work of the committee to look at those cases and see what exactly is taking place within local authorities.
Okay, still on the issue of engagement with the city council, is it possible to have sight of the petition that was forwarded to the city council and also the responses that were obtained from that engagement with the city council? Because I think we need to build on from whatever responses that they got. Then in your presentation, you indicated that there are some bribes being paid or given to those that are disconnecting water for their waters not to be disconnected. Is there any proof or evidence for such bribes?
I'll give you an example of there's evidence of what has been transpiring in Highfields. There's a known official from City of Harare who has been going around requesting for bribes to stop arbitrary water disconnections. We wrote several letters to departments of the City of Harare expressing our concern on the conduct of that employee. Nothing, even a disciplinary hearing, was done for that particular employee up to date. And we tried everything that we could do to ensure that that will not happen. Probably the issue of evidence that the Honorable Member is looking at would be, do we have a specific, like probably a video of where someone has been, seen giving money? We have heard testimonials of people. That's the only evidence that we have. Wicked as it might appear, but this is the reality of what is actually happening within communities. And if you consult residents within local authorities, they will tell you that this is what is happening. They pay bribes, $5 to stop arbitrary water disconnections. And then the second was on information. The information that you have requested, you can always avail the information to the committee. We do have the documents on the interactions that we have had with the City of Harare and the petitions that were presented to City of Harare in the past.
Thank you, Chairman. Just confirmation from Community Water Alliance as to whether they have received any support in carrying out their work from this other alternative company that's offering competitive prices.
We have not received any from them. And the reason why we are pushing for this, like I've said, we are concerned about the price of water. Like I've said, that the cost of purification has got a bearing on affordability of water services, which is a very important strand when it comes to the issue of the human right to water. Like I've said, the legal content of the human right to water entails that water has to be affordable. So pushing for this issue is based on two fundamental issues. One, the cost of water at the tap, which has got a bearing on our members. Because our members, if they cannot have, if water continues to increase in terms of its price, it creates a lot of challenges. Then the second is on the quality of water. which has got health implications and diseases in terms of outbreak of diseases. We have not received any money from nanotech.
I think we're just repeating what you said.
Yes, Chairman. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Right, you introduced yourself as residents and ratepayers of Harare. Then you go on and say you are citizens of Zimbabwe. And also you mentioned that you get money from the members' subscriptions and donations. I just want to know who are these guys, or who are these funders who are donating, who are putting the donations into the associations?
When we say we are open for donations, we say anyone can donate. So if you are a resident, if you're a business person in a local authority, you can donate. And also,
for your organization to also educate the people you represent that they should also learn to cut their coat according to their cloth. What am I saying? Those who cannot afford to pay for water, be it economically or socially, there are areas in this country that those people can stay and have water free. What I'm saying, the cost of rates in Borough are different from the cost of rates in Glenview. And also in rural areas, there is free water. Yeah. Than to inconvenience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just seeking clarification on whether the alternate chemical supply to which they're referring to, did they submit their bid at the time of the tender, or did it come later? I'm just trying to establish whether the contract was awarded to the more expensive supplier as opposed to the less expensive supplier. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If I heard them right,